What up YouTube, this is Nate from thriftdweller and welcome to the latest installment of Top 3 Tuesday. First and foremost, before I get started in today's video, I wanted to apologize to everybody. I've been lacking quite a bit in terms of response videos to everyone's comments. I try to type to everybody who comments to the videos in the comments below, but usually I shoot a video responding to everyone's comments because some people are just hilarious with it or trolling me. I don't know, but it's fun to shoot a video to respond to people, but I haven't done that lately. As you can see, the game room behind me is under quite a bit of construction or destruction. Still gotta paint the walls here, but I made a pallet wall. If you follow me on Twitter or on Facebook, links to those channels will be in the description below. I've kind of been posting, this. For today's Top 3 Tuesday, I thought it'd be really fun to dive into, I guess, my thoughts and what I've been thinking about lately. In my conversations with Lester and Ian, I've kind of started talking about my theories of collecting. I think I'm just getting a lot older in life and I have a lot more time to think about these things. Like, what motivates me, people like me, to do the things that we do. I guess a quick snowflake warning for everybody out there. I might make blanket statements, but I don't mean to generalize a whole group of people. This is more reflections of me and reflections of myself or people that are in my close circle. I own quite a bit of video games, retro video games, and I've come to 3 conclusions in life, which I'm sharing with you now. Maybe you can add to these, maybe you'll learn something, maybe you can educate me in the comments below. Please don't be afraid to share your comments. Again, thank you to everyone who commented on the last video. Your shout out should be here, and again, I will come up with a response video to everyone who responds to this video, and I will catch up on the old videos that I didn't respond to yet. Y'all leave me some troll comments, man. The number 3 cold hard reality of retro game collecting. You can't die with this stuff. You can't take this stuff with you to the grave. And what do I mean by that? Essentially, we put a lot of time and effort into procuring these items, and at the end of the day, sometimes they just own us, right? We spend a lot more time taking care of it than it will ever take care of us. We put a lot of love into this, a lot of mental energy and efforts. I guess you could be buried with it in a mausoleum or something, I don't know. Some people do some crazy things out there, okay? What I'm really questioning though is this whole concept of ownership. We own all these things when really we own them for a short period of time. We're not here on this earth forever unless you're Highlander, and once we get to a point where we cannot protect these items from people who would steal them from us, or we're dead, we're just caretakers for these things, whether we're going to pass it on to our kids, which I think is kind of ridiculous in terms of retro game collecting, which I'll get to as we go along in this video in my next upcoming theory. But we're just kind of preserving this for the next person who's going to own it down the chain before it either deteriorates into dust or becomes worthless or discarded. Number 2, cold hard reality about retro game collecting. This whole concept of investment, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, I collect retro video games because I love the history, but I would be lying if I said that everybody I came across really had that love of retro game. Even myself, like, I have all this stuff. I probably played 25% of it, keeping it 100. In terms of an investment, it's really unproven. Throughout the early 2000s, I think retro game collecting was kind of like on the down low. I don't think a lot of us ever foresaw the future that would be like today's retro video games going for auction, a retro video game grading company who seal, like comic books like CGC. But the reality, I think the real boom of retro video games came in 2012, and the reason I say that is because of websites like Price Charting that kind of just recently started documenting the trends of retro video game collecting. It kind of would be fun to see my older self in the future watching this video. Hey Nate, if you're out there watching yourself, or even after I'm dead, what became of this whole retro video game fad? Is it a fad, right? I always say from 2012 to now was really the explosion of retro video game collecting. Everyone kind of started coming out of the closet. People became new retro video game collectors. It's hit mainstream with the NES Classic, SNES Classics. Companies starting up just catering to this demographic of retro video game collectors. If you look at the charts I mentioned before on Price Charting, 2012 there was a big spike in terms of value of all these video games, and it's peaking and it's flattening. Stale market right now. Video games are not really going higher in value. Some of them are trickling down a bit. There's a big widening gap too in terms of price from the really rare desirable stuff and the rest of the video games. And what that signifies to somebody like me, or it signifies to somebody who is like an analyst of markets and trends, is that you may see a reversal in terms of market popularity. You know, is retro video gaming going to be the Thai Beanie Babies of the past, the card collecting of the 90s? Or is it going to be something like comic books, which has relatively stayed, I'm not going to say stable, but has been a viable market in terms of collectors? But video games has really only been around, I would say, since 2012 as a viable collectibles genre, in my opinion. It's really gone unproven. It's been, what, 6 years? Let me know in the comments below where you think it's going to go. Number 1, cold hard fact, cold hard reality about retro video game collecting. Addictions is real. You're not addicted? Usually they say denial is the first sign of addiction. Am I addicted to retro video game collecting? You know, somebody could look at my videos and see all my games in the background. There's a lot less now, obviously, but it's easy to throw around that word addiction, right? Nate's addicted to... Really, what does that mean, the word addiction? As a healthcare person, I really do understand the importance of clearly defining things like the word addiction or disease. Then you can cure it, is how traditional medicine goes. So somebody like me, I don't like to say I am addicted, even though I think in the past I've danced on that line quite a bit. But the real definition of addiction is the compulsion to do something, disregarding any of the adverse effects on your life, right? So doing something even though you know it's going to hurt you, you still have a compulsion that you have to do it. Gambling, something that my family's gambling, drinking, things that have really affected my life in terms of people in my circle. You know, I'm just lucky that I kind of have resources in my life that I can afford to buy things like retro video games. But in the past, it was hard for me to draw that line where to stop, right? How much should I spend on retro video games? Because I think the real danger of retro game collecting is you want to have, like, I don't know, it's very competitive online. People want to say they have the best collection, so they have the rarest, most expensive games. I'm not saying I ever did this for myself, but I've heard of people taking out loans to buy a specific retro video game or to splurge on a retro video game collection. And I think if you need to take out a loan for something that's not essential in your life, that is a problem to me. You're going into debt, you're giving yourself a burden in your life for something that you can't take with you beyond the grave. Oh, look, it's circled back to number 3. The reality of a pastime, the reality of a hobby, it's supposed to be something that helps you pass the time. It shouldn't be something that fills it. That's the best thing I got out of Psycho with Vince Vaughn. I love that quote. But the reason I say I dance with being addicted to retro video game collecting, it consumes quite a bit of my life, right? I like to think of myself, and a lot of the people that I know have more of addictive behaviors. An addictive behavior is doing something that is both rewarding and gratifying, but it doesn't have that negative connotation or that negative component that an addiction has, right? So I think I do have that addictive personality in me. I'm lucky that I'm in a place in my life where I can afford to buy these things, right? I think it's just as easy for me not to be able to afford this and still want to buy all these things, like have that negative compulsion to keep buying retro video games, even though I can't afford it. Addictions is real. People out there are really suffering, and I don't mean to make light of this. For me and my theory of collecting, the hobby should be something that enriches your life, something that enhances your experience on this earth while you're alive, and it shouldn't be something that detracts. Really what I'm exploring, is it possible to really be a fanatic for something yet still have that balance of life and work? And overall, I think the end goal should be just to live the best life possible. Enjoy life to the fullest. Anyways, there you have it, my 3 cold hard realities about retro video game collecting. Agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments below. Please add to my theories. This is part of me developing this whole theory on collecting, getting people's insight out there. And again, sorry for not responding to everyone in a Top 3 Tuesday response video. It's still under construction. Hopefully it'll be done by the next time I see you guys. Anyways, this is Nate for Thrift Dweller. Peace. Enjoy life to the fullest. Drink Red Bull. Oh, drink Red Rain. Oh, they're so not gonna sponsor me.